Welcome to ReikiCafe Radio. We're your host, Christine Renee.
And Bruce Taylor. We come together with more than 35 years of experience in Reiki, meditation, chakra knowledge, and holistic healing. We are passionate about helping individuals release resistance, step into their authentic selves, and align their lives with the truth of who they are.
ReikiCafe Radio is your choice for vibrant Reiki conversations, meditation experiences, and holistic wellness. This is your space for a deeper look into the ancient wisdom through modern eyes. So grab your tea or coffee and join us as we sip our way through this week's episode. Hello and welcome to ReikiCafe Radio. I am joined with Bruce Taylor. He is in the States. We're actually sitting in the same room. I'm so excited that he's here with me today.
It's a first. It's amazing.
It's
amazing
fantastic
to meet Christine and be here. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So we've been doing Reiki classes and Reiki shares, and it's been amazing to get my Bozeman, Montana community together and really see interactions again. I don't know if you haven't been to a Reiki circle, I highly recommend finding one in your area. Know that we are also offer Reiki circles online, but it's always good to get your hands in practice once again.
Absolutely. I think we had 30 people, 20 people here for the circle. It was incredible. And yeah, it's awesome to be here and to be teaching again.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we want to really dive into today, it's like, I resat the level 1 with Bruce yesterday, and you're going, Christine, you've been doing Reiki for almost 20 years. You're sitting the level 1 again. And it comes back to no matter where you're at in your spiritual practice, there's always more room to grow, more to learn.
Absolutely.
And one of the things while I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, I love this kanji stuff. I love really understanding where Reiki came from and the history of it. And it's taught so differently depending on what lineage you're in, and recognizing that the way I teach it, there's a lot of components that are accurate and true the way I've been teaching for years, and there's more depth to it. And so today I would really love to tap into Bruce's wisdom around the shamanic roots of Reiki and where that all comes from, and about Mount Kuruma, and really going, why is this mountain near Kyoto, Japan, so connected to earth energy? That was new information to me. So I'm just ready to pick your brain.
Absolutely. So I think that one thing that's really cool about this is that the idea of shamanism, and we kind of relegate that out to, shamanic tribes or shamanic work or whatever. But in the East, there's shamanic tribes that people and indigenous cultures in Taiwan, for instance. There's a lot of indigenous cultures in Japan, for instance. And these type of healing modalities do trace back to the language and to the roots of these actual healers, which is really amazing. A lot of times you'd be like, what, Taiwan or what, Japan? What are you talking about? It's just Japanese. It's just Taiwanese. If you get into the mountains in some of the more rural areas, there's very distinct cultural differences in these parts of the country, more so in Taiwan for sure, but still you can find it in Japan. And when we talk about then from a shamanic perspective of what we're looking at, we're talking always in shamanic work about connecting into that energy, into the source, the spirit, the earth, right? And we're looking for the culture or the context within which that connection can materialize itself. So if you have shamanic practices in the Amazonian rainforest, for instance, that's going to be very, very much connected to the animals of the jungle, right? Or very much to the spirit of the Amazon forest, where as you're looking in Kyoto, for instance, it's going to be connected, like you were saying, to Mount Kurama and to the energy of the earth here, which is, of course, the same energy, but it's just in a different kind of language, if you were, right? Or a different context. So we can start by looking at this. If you break down the Reiki symbol itself, the actual kanji, so maybe if you have manuals, you want to look this up online or whatever, Reiki itself is 2 words, rei and ki. But then the kanji of those two, if we look at rei first, it's actually translated as water that falls from the heavens or the mouth of a shamanic woman. So it's like water pouring down either from the heavens or from the mouth of a shamanic woman. And I'm saying either or there because the heaven, meaning the sky, right? And a shamanic mouth or a shamanic woman, they're the same thing. It's interchangeable here. It's metaphoric, of course, but it's interchangeable. And if we think about how that's working, it's like the complete cycle of, the evaporation of energy moving in the natural environment. I mean, here, it's the evaporation of water and then the condensing, the condensing of it, and then the rain coming back down, obviously giving all life. Now, but why is this taken from a Reiki perspective? Because we can feel that energy moving up the spine and then raining down the crown chakra and falling back over the person. And so within us, we have a very similar process with the soma and the amrita. The soma is literally the fluid moving up, or the chi moving up the spine, coming through the crown and then raining back down over the body. And so with Rei, which means universal, we have it also interpreted as this rain that falls from this auspicious cloud, or for the mouth of a shamanic woman, kind of nourishing the body. And it becomes a reflexive action here. So we have that piece on the table. But then what does the rain do? The rain, from a Reiki perspective or a crown chakra perspective, falls back down on the being, right? And nourishes the entire soul so it can continue to grow, quite literally, and then also, of course, metaphorically. But from the growth perspective, we can start to look into what ki means, the second part of Reiki from the kanji. So ki can be broken down, of course, as we've all learned it, as the kind of energy or the life force. That's how we usually talk about it. But the kanji itself actually means steam and rice. So if you think about what happens here, you've got this water falling down from the mouth of the shamanic woman, right? Hitting the ground. And the steam is interesting because now we're talking about the feminine energy morphing into the masculine. So the liquid is, the solar plexus, or the masculine energy, is used to create steam, which is used to cook the rice. We can look at this as another way. The rice itself is very feminine. It's growing out in the wild and all these things. But how does it become edible? It becomes edible with steam, with a masculine dynamic that's put into it. Otherwise, it's just a kernel of rice and you can't digest it. So we have to have these things in balance. And of course, this doesn't literally mean that rain's falling from the sky and growing rice when you're practicing Reiki. What it metaphorically means is that rain is falling down. This chi is raining back down to our root. And from our root, the abundance of life can travel up through the body to nourish our body, mind, and soul. And that all of a sudden brings a very different context to it. And what I love about the difference between just the universal energy, which is what we're usually saying with Reiki, that's pretty broad. It's really beautiful. It means that we all share this energy. But if we think about it from a shamanic perspective, then it ties in the flow of the energy of the earth into this practice, which is what we're looking at with a shamanic practice as well.
And I think I love that so much because you can feel it in your body then. Mm-hmm. You can really feel the energy flowing up, raining down from the crown and going all the way down to your root, down to that connection to the earth and letting it feed you again.
Absolutely.
And so it's a full cyclical, full body experience when you really step into it. So, and we were talking about the older kanji, not the things that are coming out with the Reiki stamp that it's updated.
Yeah, it's been updated, simplified in some ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're still looking at the traditional writing of Reiki in Japanese, but depending on where you've learned or who you've studied with, that might have been modified, may have been simplified a little bit. So, you would just want to go back and look at the original kanji, the original writing of Reiki in Japanese.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. Oftentimes we'll see Reiki very modern day kanji versus this more traditional older style kanji. And we want to go back to the kanji of the time of Sensei Asui, right? Yeah. So that we get what was life like from that perspective, because that's where it originated from.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not, for those of you listening, it's not a criticism on your teacher if you've got the newer kanji. I mean, kanji in Japanese and the Japanese language has been trying to become more simplified just so that it's easier to learn. And the same, I think, in Mandarin and Cantonese. Cantonese and Mandarin have something like 2,800 characters. It's insane. How can you ever learn all this with 8 different inflections? I don't know this. I'm not quoting this. I don't know this off the top of my head, but it's something like that. So it's far too complex of a language to be accessible. So all of these are trying to become more streamlined.
Well, and I think it happens in a lot of cultures. Even Russia took away one of their letters. And it was the letter that had the spiritual depth to it. And so it's very interesting the way we are trying to simplify language. And usually the simplification of the language is taking out this innate spiritual aspect of the language. Like it starts to be dull or less so. And so I love like seeing the differences and really studying like, where did that come from? How did that happen? Why did it happen? Like all of that just really intrigues me. And then hearing you speak yesterday for the level 1 class, I loved hearing about the actual mountain and how these Buddhist monks acted not only 100 years ago during Sensei Asui's time, but also today, and what that mountain means to Japan, not from a Reiki perspective, but just from a general Buddhist perspective.
Absolutely. It's one of these places on the planet where there's this huge outpouring of energy from the earth. This earth energy, again, speaks to that shamanic piece in the idea of Rei. When we are surrounded by this energy, we can't help but feel a narrative or a presence or a direction if we surrender to it, of course, right? You can feel the energy regardless, unless you just really shut down all of your senses when you're on these mountains. But the surrendering to it, that starts to give you a story. And so the main focus on Mount Kurama is actually worshiping the Bodhisattva of the natural world, Amitabha Buddha and some other ones. Reiki happens to be a kind of a side lineage of that whole discussion. And I think looking into the meaning of Reiki here from a shamanic perspective, it really gives the idea that there's something raining down, but then it grows up from the earth. And the earth is what's nourishing the practice. And I love this because the story goes that Mikao Usui fasted for 21 days on Mount Kurama in order to obtain this Reiki enlightenment. So he's sitting in the space of what I was just saying, constantly having that rain pour down. So the nourishment of the Amitabha Buddha, if you want to put it this way, would come through the body and hopefully give him that enlightenment.
And tell us a little bit about specifically this Buddha. Who does he represent? So
the natural world, if you're looking at level 2, for instance, and you've gone into Seihiki, the symbol of balance, the symbol of the masculine and the feminine dualistic balance, you can actually see that symbol at the heart of a lot of the symbols of the Amitabha Buddha. So it's the balance of the energy of the earth. And it's not just the feminine energy, it's also the masculine energy here that we have in balance. And I'll give an example of that. My first time going to Usugi Gongen, which is where Mikao Usui had his fasting experience on Mount Kurama. The temple, the tree, the area is to worship a tree, which was it was the manifestation of this Bodhisattva in physical form on the mountain. So there's a number of temples. This was a minor one. It's definitely not a major temple. The first time I got there, I think this had been 5 years ago or so, there was a huge typhoon that came and hit Kyoto. And Mount Kurama itself was fine. There was no visible evidence of any damage or anything whatsoever until you got up to Usugi Gongen. That tree is destroyed, the temple was destroyed, and the small valley that's right next to it was all leveled completely. And I was there with my teacher, with Hakutan Inamoto, and we were talking about it, and I was like, this may be really symbolic. Nothing in life is permanent, of course, and maybe it suggests that there's a shift coming in Reiki, because old modalities or ways of thinking are potentially surrendering, hopefully. This idea of doing and having all of this practice where it's so intense and we're just kind of surrendering back into our own innate energy. And as we do that, we have this, going back to the kanji, the rice can bloom again. The nourishment can come forward, hopefully with less ego and less resistance. And I found that to be a really beautiful symbolism of that it's not destroyed, it's just changing. Yeah. It's being reborn. It's beautiful. Right? Yeah. I love it. And if you can join, we've got a retreat coming. I'm just saying this now because in April of next year, it's the 100th anniversary of the founding of the practice of Usui Reiki Ryoho. So it's going to be a big global gathering. And I wouldn't doubt that Usugi Gongen will still be in a state of disrepair, and that's actually a really beautiful thing to witness if we understand that we are now coming together globally as a Reiki community into Usugi Gongen as it is literally in the state of flux, of change. it's giving me goosebumps to think about it, because I actually haven't articulated it like this. But if we can all come together and be in that space as it's moving from the story of Mikao Usui to now whatever Reiki will become, obviously honoring Usui Sensei and all of that, but hopefully these practices will become more normalized, more internalized, and just kind of what we do, because we used to just have this as a practice and we've stepped away from that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it's suggesting on the mountain. I don't know.
We'll see what comes come April.
Absolutely.
I think that's it. Like coming to the mountain, this not only where Reiki is being honored, but this earth-based honoring on the mountain, to me, like this is what is intriguing me. This is what's pulling me in, going, there's so much, not only history here, which I'm fascinated by, but also this coming to myself, coming to my practice, coming to the roots of my practice, and really honoring how it's transforming, how is it shifting, and how can I be in that space of, let's do our work honestly.
Absolutely.
Let's come back to those precepts and really live our Reiki. So
I think what it will allow when we're there as well to live that practice honestly. I've just said that, Reiki is going through a change, and it may be going through a change. I'm not sure. But by being there and coming back to the root, you allow your connection to the practice to further be honored to the origins of the practice. And that is all about doing your work honestly. It's always a little bit dubious to me when people are practicing Reiki, which from its basic definition, it's just universal energy. So when people are practicing this type of healing with energy work, and then they go and trademark something or have other offshoots and they change things, and you can't change universal energy. You're just putting your own stamp on it for your own marketing purposes or whatever. And this is okay. I mean, maybe it's helping a lot of people. I'm not judging that. But what I'm saying is we're practicing something that's universal, right? So by going back to the core of it, being back in the energy of where it originated, being surrounded by the energy of the Amitabha Buddha and being in that flow, then maybe we can go back to the truth of what Reiki is, which is just simply surrendering into the energy. It doesn't have to have a name or a stamp or any of these types of things.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And part of it is that that's been my message for so long, is like, let's not try to figure it out. Let's actually just live it, breathe it, experience it.
Absolutely.
And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Bruce to guide us on a traditional tuning in Reiki healing for ourselves to heal humanity. And I'd love to invite you to this practice. So Bruce, go ahead and kick it off.
All right. Should we jump into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, everybody. So we're going to look at this Reiki share here, maybe from a slightly more Japanese perspective. And the Japanese perspective of traditional Usui Reiki Ryoho is just about the internal environment. It's about stilling the internal environment, because from the Japanese Buddhism, or the perspective of Reiki as it links to Buddhist beliefs, it's the idea that energy is, of course, universal. That's the meaning of Reiki. So if we can calm our own energy and our own internal environment, then reflexively we're also and automatically then working on everybody else, because there's no separation. The separations are fictitious. And that's quite a beautiful practice to be in, but it's sometimes a confronting practice, because it can be so immediate, and it can also be so like insular or so interior to the person, right? So we're going to work on diving into that today. So let's get started. If everybody is seated, I'm assuming most people are seated. If you are, put your feet flat on the ground. I'm going to be doing this right here next to Christine. Your feet flat on the ground, and we bring our hands to Gassho, which is prayer at the heart center. And we leave a little gap. You can see my hands here. I have a little tiny gap between the palms, and we just breathe through the nostrils. And these are full breaths, so really inflate the lungs. Really bring that breath up to the collarbones or as high up as you can. And then the awareness here on the breathing is staying on the lower belly, on the hara or the sacral chakra as we breathe. So feel the lower belly in particular expanding and contracting as we exhale. Everybody here, I'm sure, has a background in Reiki and Reiki practice, so you can probably begin to feel the hibiki, or the sensation of the chi between the palms starting to build, heat, maybe pressure. The arms may start to tingle. You might start to feel this energy moving through the body. This is the calming of the body and the mind, or essentially getting the ego out of the way. And we're just going to breathe here for just about another 30 seconds or so, just really cultivating space to let go and relax. And now on the next inhalation, just separate the hands about 5 inches or so. Continue to breathe, awareness on the lower belly. But feeling that pressure or that sensation, that heat between the hands, this is the cultivation of chi. This is a modification of the Reiki concentration meditation from Usui Reiki Ryoho. As if we're holding a ball of chi between the hands, letting it build. The next inhalation, opening the hands up further another 4 or 5 inches. So just stretching that energy out and noticing how you can still feel that ball of energy between the palms. So if possible, you can have a simultaneous awareness on the area between the hands, and as you breathe, the lower belly. It's just being aware of the heat, or perhaps even the cold, or the electricity, or the goosebumps, or whatever it is that you may be experiencing here. We're just feeling into that. Quiet the mind. And on your next exhale, bring the hands together as if you're compressing that energy now into a tighter ball. And then just breathe. Notice what we're cultivating here. We're cultivating the non-dualistic state of the energy, with the feminine and the masculine energies facing each other. The energy building between the palms. Quiet mind, still body. So by definition, we're cultivating the energy of love and kindness. On the next inhalation now, bring the hands to the heart center. So just let the hands fall onto the heart as you breathe. Feel that fall right into the heart center. And just breathe. Remember, we're aiming to cultivate a quiet internal environment here. So we remain here for a few more breaths. Breathe into the heart center, into the lungs, and of course the heart itself. Notice the state here of the mind and the body, how quiet we can become. On your next inhalation now, dropping the left hand down to the lower belly. So the hara or the sacral chakra, the area just below the navel, right hand staying on the heart center. And breathe. Keeping the spine straight. Maybe feeling the presence of this energy building in the torso. And we're going to sink a little bit deeper into our meditation practice and our Reiki circle here tonight in just a few breaths. So on the next inhale, bring the right hand down to lay on top of the left hand. So the thumbs are touching. The left hand is still on the lower abdomen below the navel. The right hand is on top of the left hand, with the thumbs touching and pointing upward, straight up the midline of the body, driving the energy into the dantian or the hara. Breathe and relax. Becoming present in the flow of the energy through the body allows us to become present in the moment. Stay here for a few breaths. And just in your mind and at your own pace, you can invite in a few affirmation statements here as we work on the lower dantanya, the hara, the sacral chakra. And I invite you to just, in your mind, repeat after me. As I heal myself, I simultaneously heal the universe, because I am the universe, and the universe is me. As I heal myself, I simultaneously heal the earth, because I am the earth, and the earth is me. As I heal myself, I simultaneously heal all past and future existences of myself, because I am those lives, and those lives are me. As I heal myself, I release all trauma, resistance, and blockages of the energy, because I am the energy, and the energy is me. And finally, as I heal myself, I step into my true light, because that true light is me, and that light is my existence. Bring the right hand back to the heart center, and hold the space. Breathe and relax. With a still mind and a quiet body, perhaps we can arise in the moment and understand that in that arising, we are simultaneously all beings, because we are all energy. And so now let us return our hands to Gassho, space between the palms, and now concentrate on the area between the palms. See this not just as energy, but as the universe. Something that we are not separated from, but that is wholly a part of us, because we are wholly a part of it. Feel the heat. Perhaps even feeling it radiating out from the fingertips to the face. Perhaps being able to smell the essence of the energy. And let us now bring the thumbs to the third eye, to the forehead, bowing in thanks and in gratitude for all participating here, in gratitude for all beings, all entities, all forms of energy in the universe, from which we are and from which we shall return. Namaste, everybody. Thank you.
ReikiCafe Radio is sponsored by Reiki Cafe University, where your Reiki dreams become reality. Join us on Instagram or Facebook at Reiki Cafe University, watch our videos on YouTube, or visit the website to learn more about our colleges of Reiki, chakras, and business.
It is our aim to help you on your path to wellness, guiding you into confidence, transmute your inner critic, and say yes to you. Your path to abundance, wellness, and health unfolds from here.
And love and light, Christine Renee.
And Bruce Taylor.